I guess technically I started carrying concealed when I was like 15. I had gotten my first pistol and I wasn't really aware of all the laws. So, you know, growing up in the mean streets of Amish country, I felt like I needed a heater to protect myself. Yeah, I guess I started informally, occasionally carrying when I was 15, like technically. But no, I started carrying as soon as I was legally able to later on. In Pennsylvania, you gotta be 21. So I turned 21, I was deployed. I came home, and when I came home on post-deployment leave, I immediately went to the courthouse and filed to get my CCW. So I've been carrying legally, technically, since I was first able to when I was 21. I think my biggest mistake was trying to find the balance. Like, I grew up shooting, learning as much as I possibly could about shooting. I took a lot, you know, from the 90s. You had Jeff Cooper, you had Clint Smith with Thunder Ranch, and there wasn't that many trainers out there. And obviously with the military, we don't really do that much CCW kind of stuff, low profile stuff. At least back then we didn't. Mission sets have changed and guys carry concealed in the military depending on where they're at and what they're doing, but back then there wasn't a whole lot of information on it. So for me, the mistake that I made was I carried too small of a gun, the PPK, or I actually carried too much gun, which would have been my USP 45 with 2 spare mags, which is just way too much for daily carry. I mean, it was too much. So it took me a little while to really figure out what was the right gun, holster, method of carry, all that. And I think that's kind of a familiar story for a lot of people. I think the biggest lesson is your glove box is not a holster. You know, Matt Jaques says that. Pat Rogers used to say the same. Have your gun. There's no point in having CCW, having a pistol, having a holster, having your whole system, and then only occasionally carrying it. Like, no one has a crystal ball. No one knows when that proverbial day is going to come. So guaranteed the day that you don't carry your pistol is going to be the day that you need it. So I think the most important thing is to probably figure out your system and then slave yourself to it. Like, once you figure out it works and it works for you, don't deviate from it. Don't carry some days and not carry others. Don't switch which gun you carry from day to day. Like, I'm going to carry my Glock today, my 1911 tomorrow. Like, find one system and marry yourself to it. I'm a realist. I learned early on as a child that the world is a cruel and violent place. It can be. I mean, obviously we all want to have good, happy lives free of conflict, but that's not the reality. I think I first learned about the Holocaust in World War II when I was in 2nd grade, and being a 2nd grade student and understanding that 6.5 million people got executed because of what they believed in and who they were, like, that was pretty heavy. But what I'm saying is, I guess my mentality started from childhood, understanding that there's bad people, evil men and women in this world that if they can hurt you and they have the means, motive, and opportunity, they're going to. And that you can't put a fire out without a fire hose or a fire extinguisher. Well, when a bad guy comes and starts doing bad guy stuff, like, what are you going to do? If you don't have a weapon to counter that threat, you're just another victim. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't have the means to stop the fire, then how do you stop it? The only way to do that is with violence. You have to visit that violence with more violence. I didn't get a whole lot of pistol training, or at least quality pistol training for my time in the service. Where I really learned how to shoot pistol properly was seeking instruction outside the military. And that occurred while I was still in the service. I started going to civilian trainers or prior service guys. So I'm going to say, like, right now, that the people that have helped me the most with handgun, definitively Matt Jaques from Victory First, Matt Graham from Grand Combat, Jared Ross from Rockwell Tactical, John McPhee from SOB Tactical. Like, these guys are like not my heroes or my idols, but they're definitely like my top guys, my sifus, my senseis for getting me to where I'm at now, which isn't that impressive, but it's significantly better than where I was before. All these guys I just listed, they have the same mentality, which is brilliance in the basics, the mastery of the fundamentals. And if you don't have a solid grasp of the fundamentals, then you can't do the high-speed ninja roll nonsense that you see people do on Instagram. Like, you can have the fastest hands in the world, like some dudes out there, but if you're ending into the ground or you're not hitting your target, then what's that worth? So how I train, I have the luxury of living out here in the country, so I have a little 50-yard range, you know, outside, out back there. I don't, believe it or not, I don't have that much time and that much money for training. So what I try to do is I try to train as much as possible. So that means I dry fire multiple times for the week. Even if it's only for 5 to 10 minutes, I still make it a point to dry fire. Draw from concealment, dry fire. Once a week, at the very minimum, I will shoot 1 magazine. What I've started doing is I started keeping magazines loaded with ball ammo and my Peltors in my vehicle. And when I come home, as I'm driving up the driveway, I put my Peltors on, I unload my hollow points, I put my full metal jacket in, I do that in the vehicle, and I get out of the vehicle and I immediately shoot 1 round. "50 yards, motherfucker!" And what I do is I shoot 1 round at 50 yards at a reduced size still silhouette target. So I'm shooting a reduced size silhouette target. And right now I'm about 8 out of 10 I'm gonna hit. So that's a challenging shot. It's really difficult. The whole aim small, miss small, focus on the fundamentals. I only allow myself 1 shot, and if I miss, then I get to try again tomorrow. And I found it kind of plays into my training mentality. I think we've talked about it before in the past. I wrote this article called Train Like a Samurai. It's the way I've been shooting my entire life. And in the article, you can Google it, Train Like a Samurai, it talks about how the Japanese archers trained from childhood to become proficient as marksmen. I've kind of modified that for firearms, and it's the system I use. It's pretty basic. I didn't invent it. I stole it from the samurai. But it's also what I've trained my Marines with. I've recommended it to a great number of people, friends, family, and it seems to work really well. And it allows you to train cheaply, and it's just from repetition. It's from focusing on those fundamentals and just becoming brilliant at the basics, like everybody suggests. It works. My very first pistol was a stainless steel Walther PPK in 380. Because like I said, I was 15. It was a James Bond gun. The PPK it still is an extremely reliable gun. Single action, double action, came out in 1932. Small, concealable. You know, like, I didn't know much about pistols as a kid, but I figured, you know, it'd be a good choice. From there, I think I was 16, I bought my first full-size pistol, and that was a 1911. The assault weapons ban was going on. High-cap mags were like $150. They were like impossible to find. It was crazy expensive. So I bought a 1911, and I fell in love with the 1911. So I guess in my early 20s, I kind of screwed around a little bit, where it was kind of going back and forth between carrying a 1911 and carrying a USP-45, which is way too much gun. It's a brick. I might as well just carry a Desert Eagle. And it was, you know, I don't even want to talk about that. What I settled on ultimately was the 1911, and that's the gun I carried pretty much my entire adult life until recently. Like I said, there's a lot of people I look up to. Like, I'm not the grandmaster of anything. So I ask my mentors, the people I look up to, the same questions you guys ask me when I see you, ask Burrs, and this is where I'm at with it, right? If you're a new shooter, I want to recommend carrying a 1911. And if you're a new shooter, I want to recommend carrying an RMR. It's really one of those things where it's like you have to prove to yourself that you're proficient enough with a base system before you move on to something else. People will argue that, like, no, the guys, you know, it's the virgin canvas, you can train them right and you can train it faster by going straight through a red dot. I'm not a firm believer in that. And it's kind of like a commitment thing. Like, if you're going to put an RMR on your gun, you're making a commitment to that optic. It has advantages and it has disadvantages. You got to maintain the optic. You got to make sure the lens is clean. You got to make sure the battery's good to go. You got to function check the red dot before you leave the house. Make sure the battery didn't die and turn itself off. That kind of stuff. So it's one of those things where, like, I carry a pistol with an RMR mounted. I do. And the reason why I do that is because it gives me an ability that I don't have with iron sights. And people argue that, like, oh, you know, just get better at irons and it won't matter. Like, no, it definitively makes a difference. It particularly makes a difference at nighttime and at distance. At the penalty of me being slightly slower requires sights. And by slightly slower, I mean like a quarter of a second, which I'm perfectly fine with that compromise. So it's one of those things, it's personal choice, but it's up to you. I want to recommend it for a new shooter. And any shooter that does adopt it, you got to know what you're getting yourself into. From everybody that's watched the videos I've done with Captain Burrs, people have seen me on Trigger Time TV. You know, it's a nationwide TV show. People, excuse me. People notice that I pretty much wear the same stuff all the time. Like growing up, like I wore the same outfit virtually every day, which is a black T-shirt and jeans. Like it's like the uniform of the white guy or something. I don't know. But now that I've gotten a little bit older, I've learned a lot about CCW. It's very rare that you see me wearing anything other than a button-down shirt and jeans or slacks. I almost always wear a collared button-down shirt. And a big reason why I do that is because I'm a grown-up and people treat you different when you're wearing a collared shirt than when you're wearing a t-shirt. It's weird, but it's the case. Doesn't mean I don't wear t-shirts. I do a lot, but the collared shirt makes a difference. And I've noticed this in different situations over the years. And it's just like people give you the benefit of the doubt over wearing a ripped-up Pantera t-shirt. Wearing a collared shirt with buttons that doesn't have holes in it, people treat you different. I mostly carry Appendix now. Or what am I saying? I exclusively carry Appendix now. So it's one of those things where when I'm looking for shirts, I'm kind of weird about the material, but I like a material that's a little bit heavier weight, so it's something to grab onto, so I can clear my cover garment and get to my pistol. I'm wearing a Magwell shirt right now, which I absolutely love their shirts. You know, it's kind of cool to, like, you know, buy your clothing from the same company you buy 60-round drum magazines from. That's America for you right there. But I love these button-down flannels. I love their button-down shirts. What I like about these shirts is that they're like cowboy snaps. So if you start fighting your garment, you can just tear it away. Like the buttons will just pop, and you can access your pistol. So it's one of those things where, like, basically any quality outdoor brand button-down shirt, like Arc'teryx, which I don't really like to spend the money on, or Columbia, or even like the Cabela's brand shirts, the Bass Pro brand shirts, that kind of stuff. It's if it's made for the outdoors, odds are it's going to work fine for CCW. And there's little things you can do, little tricks for CCW that tailor your garment if you want to. So I carried a full-size 1911 my entire adult life. So I carried a full-size 1911 with a flashlight for like 15 years. And a couple years ago, I left that. I deviated from the method of carry and the weapon I carried because of a reoccurring nightmare I kept having. I had it every night. I really analyzed the dream, and I made a change. And I switched from that 1911 strong side over to a Glock 19. I already owned it. I was already proficient with it. But yeah, so I carry a Glock 19 now with a flashlight. That's the stipulation of any gun I carry. It always has to have a flashlight. I got an RMR on it. And with this setup right here, I can hit a man-sized target in pitch black at 50 yards on demand. So that's, I mean, I don't know what more I could ask for a handgun than what I can achieve with this. I carry this pistol with a spare magazine. This is the system that I really honestly can't see me deviating from this anytime soon. It's really basically the golden standard of CCW, and that's one of the reasons why you see so many people carry Glock 19s. Is the RMR for you? I don't know. Is the muzzle brake, you know, the comp, is that for you? I can't answer that for you either. But the flashlight definitely is, and carrying enough pistol, a large enough handgun that you can actually fight with, and enough bullets to win that fight. That's something that you need to really take into consideration